Hello Bethany, thank you very much for joining us for this interview today about Matilda, the show that you're putting on for your performing arts coursework.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions which I'd like you to answer.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay, so one question is, what were some of the difficulties of choreographing the school song?
Well, I am not a natural born choreographer, so I had to use influences from all across the board. So I looked at the West End production of Matilda for some of my inspiration. I had my head choreographer Chloe Tidswell give me a massive amount of help when it came to actually physically choreographing it. When it came to teaching this choreography to my cast, I'm working with a large cast of people, which is an experience that I'm not very familiar with. Which is an experience I'm not very familiar with. So there came a lot of difficulties with that in cast management and directing alongside the choreography. But overall, I think what we've managed to create has been born out of a lot of trial and error, so working with various different styles and techniques. We've used many influences, and this is really difficult to concentrate because people are moving and talking and doing things. Ah!
Oh, stop out of the room while we're helping you in.
Should we go in another room?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Should we keep the camera rolling?
Keep the camera rolling and I'll put it out.
Okay. Okay, so you say that this piece, you focus on its entirety, you focus on all the little details.
Yeah, so one example of something that sort of went wrong and we had to fix. We originally looked at having... Alright, okay.
So, fine details and an example.
Hang on. Wait for them to shut up because we're still rolling. Thank you. One example of something that we decided that we were going to change sort of halfway through the division process was we'd originally envisaged the children having chairs. And what we wanted to do was we wanted them to bring the chairs in during the second verse with the letters on the back. And this would highlight the alphabet nature of the song, sort of double entendre that the song itself is. However, we realised that due to the spatial constraints of the room that we were performing in, that wasn't going to be a possibility. So instead we looked at using books instead, and we had we papered books, we had them as white, and we were going to draw letters on them and have the children sort of present the books as the song continued. However, we realised during working with the cast that these books were very noisy, they were cumbersome, and they looked really unprofessional. They took away from the polished nature of the piece. So we decided that we were going to remove the books, and instead we have a repetition of movement across that section instead, which I think really contributes to the slick, polished.
That's fantastic. So you really have focused on fine details.
Yeah.
And when we look at the play as a whole then perhaps, what is your overall message or lesson, I suppose like a moral that you'd like your audience to take away with them?
Well, I want my audience to remember that it is important to value everybody, no matter their differences, no matter their upbringing. Matilda as a character I've always found very interesting because she very much embodies what it is to be a child from a background that is not necessarily wholesome, and yet still brings away very strong moral values of her own alongside her intellect, which I personally find quite empowering as a character. And I sort of want the audience to go away remembering that that is a very important part of life. I also want them to take away the importance of education, I suppose, and I want them to laugh as well. This isn't just a moral lesson, this isn't just a story we want to tell, this is also an experience and an entertainment. So we want them to laugh and we want them to have a good time as well.
Fantastic. Okay, so another fine little detail was the follow spot. Can I ask you why, for the song Bruce, you chose to use a follow spot, not just a standard spotlight?
Well, for this scene, during the West End production, they use a very similar technique. Now, during Bruce's monologue, he has a section where he says, the Bert floated past the Bert floated past me, past Nigel, past Lavender, past Matilda, and full into the face of the Trunchbull. Now, while we could have choreographed this in terms of the lighting rig in order to light each individual character, and that may have looked effective, we needed to be simple. We needed to be simplistic with how we were going to keep this lighting because of the time constraint that we were put under and because of the skill level of the people that were operating our tech board. So as a result, we decided to use a follow spot. A follow spot is much easier to highlight each individual character because all you have to do is move it. Also, the follow spot doesn't just come in handy for scenes such as Bruce. It's also very important for scenes such as Miracle, at the very beginning, because there are several different points at which the audience have to be aware of different characters. For example, Mrs. Wormwood giving birth. I should state that this piece is still in its divisionary... Okay. I'll cut it out as well. Oh God, pick the ice cream up. It's beautiful. I should say that this piece is still in its divisionary process. I believe we have the cake finished just now. Chloe Tiswell, if you'd like to bring it over.
Bitch, don't take it credit for your order.
Charlotte, I have to put this in, don't swear. This is the cake that was designed by our artistic director, Charlotte Moore, and was created by her alongside our head choreographer, Chloe Tiswell.
Fantastic, and I suppose also with the lighting rig, there aren't that many lights. So
no.
You've not really got that number of lights to spend on just that one little moment there.
No, exactly. We have to incorporate the number of lights we have. There are certain logistical elements that we really have to keep in mind. So, yeah, it's much easier, certainly in terms of logistics and skill and time, to use the follow spot.
Fantastic. You're playing the one and only Miss Trunchbull.
Yes, I am.
Usually played by men, but you're kind of subverting that.
I am subverting that. Miss Trunchbull has, for me, since the inception of Matilda, been a dream role. And it sort of influenced me slightly in my choice of production. I have loved this role for many a year, and I decided I wanted to put on Matilda so that I could potentially give myself the opportunity to perform as that role. Now, I decided to cast women for this role, simply because although the role is usually played by men and that adds the comedic element to it, I believe that women, some women, have that steel edge that Trunchbull needs, that sometimes men can't bring across. In male characterization, you can often, not always, but often see the character as all brutal, which is definitely a very strong point in her characterization, but sometimes you need that slightly feminine element to it as well, which I think is something that I could bring across. Now, of course, I did go through an audition process myself. I didn't select myself as this character. That would be incredibly unfair. But through the audition process, I was selected, and yes, so I've been able to perform as this role. I'm very excited.
Fantastic. Why did you choose orange hair?
Orange hair. Well, I think Trunchbull is a very fiery character, and through songs, some that unfortunately we've not been able to include, such as Throw the Hammer, she shows her incredible dedication to sticking to the rules, and this is often often communicated through her.
Mrs. said the work that you have to send off has to be written.
Has she said it just now?
Yes, she said that.
Right, well, she's told me that I have to be videoing auditions and stuff because she's gonna, because we can put that on and send that as part of it as well.
Yeah. Right, well, I'm off to that.
Bye! This is just supplementary.
See you later.
Yeah. Alright, yeah, see you later then.
Bye!
Yeah, see you later.
Are you off to Twilight now? Oh dear, it's not. Alright.
All the best for baby loves sound.
Huh?
All the best for baby loves sound.
The baby.
The baby. All the best for the baby.
Oh yeah. See ya.
Bye.
Bye, love. Orange hair, fiery character.
Certainly this is a very important part of her characterisation. However, I think it's also important in terms of costume to bring across this fiery nature that she has, this absolute passion, because that's what it is. It's not just a dedication, it is a passion. She has a passion for rules and she has a passion for discipline. And I think the hair choice that I have made really reflects that element to her character.
Fantastic. We're looking at your director's notes, the big black book. Now, reading your director's notes, from what I understand, you built quite the occasional dislike towards your star guest and star choreographer. Why was this?
I don't have a dislike to my star guest and star choreographer. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I am very grateful for them. However, when I am directing, I find it very important to run a disciplined ship, much like Trunchbull does. And as a result, this can occasionally get the better of me. It's one of my self-criticisms as a director, that I need to be more patient with my cast. It's definitely something I've learned on this journey. I need to be more patient with my cast. And as a result, the star choreographer and the star guest, Sam Hardy, have occasionally suffered sort of, I wouldn't like to say the brunt of my, how to phrase this? I wouldn't like to say the brunt of my discipline and my disciplinary tactics, but I think as they are the oldest members of the cast, older than myself, I expect a lot more of them than I have been given in rehearsals, and that has disappointed me, and I think that's come across. Yeah, it's been a challenge with this cast at points, learning how to discipline a cast on my own has certainly been a challenge, but they are certainly learning the values of respect now, and I imagine that the star guest and star choreographer's behaviour should continue should they ever decide to learn their lines.
Thanks for that. Yeah, cool. What advice would you give to aspiring actors who are looking at pursuing something like your career?
Go for it. I know everybody says it and everybody tells you that, but go for it, honestly. I am well aware that this is only a small section of my journey as an actress, I suppose you could call it. But I've learned so much from this experience. That it's an incredible learning curve, having to direct a cast, having to write, sort of amend scripts, having to read through, having to act as a principal character, and do these all at the same time, having to design sets, having to construct sets, having to work with lighting and sound and staging. All of these skills are absolutely influential to any person that's going into a performance career. So I would say this is a fantastic opportunity to learn all of those skills. And if you are interested in putting on your own show, I would say go for it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time and all the best. Break a leg and back to the studio. Good. Fantastic.